Welcome to the SNN.Network Canada virtual event. I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Peter Ball, President and Chief Operating Officer of Noram Lithium Corp. Peter, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks to everybody for attending. I believe I'm the last one of the day, so we'll try to keep it lively. We'll try to stay away from being too technical. We're going to focus on metrics, comps, and evaluation. And the story today that we're going to be talking about, of course, is Noram Lithium Corp. We are advancing the high-grade Zeus Lithium Project, as you can see on the slide in front of you. We are in Nevada, one of the top or the top mining jurisdiction in the world. And the focus of today's presentation, of course, is, as you can see in the center of the screen, the preliminary economic assessment that was announced today with an NPV of about $1.3 billion at 8% discount, 31% IRR, and a 40-year mine life. I'm going to go through that in much more detail as we push forward. What I'm going to try and do today is highlight most of the check marks that I believe this is a story that people should put on their radar, follow along as we move forward, and kind of understand that this is the biggest day in Noram's history. It's been 5 years in the making to have and present the PEA this morning on December 8th. So I'm going to slide through the slides, and we'll look for Q&A at the end. There we go. Clicking on to slide 2. These are forward-looking statements. Of course, we are a exploration, development, and advanced mining company. So a lot of the comments today will be forward-looking. Clicking on to slide 3, taking a little bit here. So again, today's presentation is about the Zeus Project. We control 100% of the project. We have no NSRs. The company's been working on the assets since 2016. This year was, again, one of the biggest years, not only in putting forth a substantial mineral resource, lithium mineral resource in Nevada, which, as you can see, with 1.8 million tons of lithium carbonate in the measured and indicated category, and an additional 3.9 million tons in the inferred, which we'll be looking at in the early 2022 to upgrade that as we push forward to the next level after the PEA that we announced today. I'm going to dive into that in a little bit on the next few slides. In regards to the check marks that I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the team comes with a very experienced group of mining professionals and finance and capital markets and geological experts that have been working on this project not only for 5 years, but have been in the industry for collectively 20, 30, 40-year plus each. Good thing to see with a junior mining company, of course, is the management and insiders controlling close to 20%. And our Chief Executive Officer, Sandy McDougall, is the largest shareholder and has not sold a single share since he's been with the company for 5 years. We did reach a high of earlier this year of $1.25, and again, he did not sell a single share in the company. Our share structure, with 75 million shares outstanding, what that does, it really allows for an opportunity for a re-rate as we advance the company, advance the project, de-risk the project, along with some of the objectives we have, not only to be completed in 2021, but the ones we are going to complete in 2022. We have about $2.5 million in treasury today. Again, we're fully funded really to get to the PFS stage in 2022 if we choose to. PFS will probably be about $600,000 or $700,000. We're planning Q3, Q4 next year to have that done. Big year next year, and of course we'll also be doing a drill program, as I mentioned, to upgrade some of the inferred resources to the measured and indicated category. We are located in the top mining jurisdiction in the world, Nevada. It's been ranked probably number one for a number of years. And today I'm also going to try to transfer the story that we are very undervalued versus our peers of the stage we are that we reached today. And I mentioned for 2022, we have not only drilling, but updating our resource and enhancing the economics of the project. Quick facts about the project. I'll run through this. I don't need to do line by line. We're in Clayton Valley, Nevada. Clayton Valley, Nevada is one of the, what we're calling a district area play where a number of junior mining companies, intermediates, are advancing lithium carbonate projects immediately adjacent to the Albert Marley Silver Peak mine, which is the only and longest running, I think it's about 60 years, lithium brine mine in the United States of America. We own 100% of the projects, no underlying NSRs. It is a large-scale deposit that basically, if you picture the deposit is about 3 or 4 kilometers in length, 1.5 to 2 kilometers wide, and about 100 meters thick of just basically clay. And the lithium is contained in the clay. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Suitable for conventional mining methods, really just dig it up, stick it on a conveyor belt, agitate it, add some sulfuric acid, and at the end of the metallurgical process, you have 99.5% pure lithium carbonate equivalent. We really have no deleterious or contaminants such as mercury or arsenic, so very clean for the environment as we push forward and understand the project on the processing and mining component. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've done a number of holes. Average depth is, again, just under 50 meters, and most of the holes ended in mineralization. So, again, we'll further understand the deposit again in 2022 as we commence another program to upgrade the resources for the PFS study in 2022. The metallurgical tests that we've done, we're getting up to 90% lithium recovery in the process, which is actually quite good when we compare it to our peers, or actually at some point higher. So again, what we've seen in Nevada over the last 3 years are a number of companies such as Lithium America. America's pushing forward their Thatcher project. We have Ioneer pushing forward their Rhyolite Ridge, and immediately next door we have the Cypress Development Company advancing their Clayton Valley project. Each of them have done extensive studies of looking at the unique processes of either roasting, adding sulfuric acid, or even hydrochloric acid to extract up to 90+% of the lithium. As we know, in 2025 up to 2030, there's going to be a big supply crunch for many groups in this, what we call EV or green revolution, or the push to extract lithium and get this lithium to market. There's going to be a big crunch where there's lithium out there, but how fast we can get this to market, and economics will play a key part in how the financiers look at each of these projects. On the right-hand side of this slide, I've already touched on the resource. A good way to look at this measured and indicated resource, approaching 400 million tons of just under 1,000 ppm. Do you translate this resource and look at it? How does it look if you were to put, what kind of grade would this be in the gold market? At the prices of lithium today, this translates to about 1 gram of gold. If you put it in, try to do apples to apples. And if you add the amount of tonnage with that gold, this resource or this deposit actually equates to over 10 million ounces of gold, if you want to kind of look at how this would be viewed. And the cost to mine each one of these tons is less than $16 per ton. Again, that's the economics. We'll be touching that more in the PEA that we just completed and in the PFS in 2022. We're going to actually look at the PEA and look at some of the comparables in a minute of how we stack up against the peers or the groups that are actively pushing forward the project. So some of the next steps, and I'll have this at the last slide again. We are upgrading the resource. Again, the reason to upgrade the resource is in the pit. There's a number of inferred resources that need to be upgraded or classified in the indicated or measured category, as when you do a PFS or pre-feasibility study, those resources need to be only in the indicated and measured. So we'll stick 12 holes. We're very confident that another 775 million tons will be upgraded. We're pushing forward for PFS, as I mentioned. We're in discussions with various groups on water rights. to have the access for water for the metallurgical process. And again, some of the most key points when you're in the mining industry, anywhere in the world, is advancing social, environmental, green initiatives, and working with the communities that are in and around your project. So a little bit about the team. Anita and Sandy have been working hand in hand together for 5 years, advancing this project as the key executives in the company, both very large shareholders, both very dedicated and passionate. And, and a very interesting thing, Sandy McDougall, our CEO, has never drawn a salary while working with this company, and he is the largest shareholder and has not sold a share. He sees the valuation of this project and this company climbing a lot over the next couple of years as we push to re-rate it as we move to PFS side. I won't talk about myself too much. I've been in the industry for a number of years. I'm a fifth-generation mining kid, as I call myself, in the mid-50s, and I worked with a number of companies, raised a number of capital, and I just recently joined the company to really accelerate the story, help with the engineering and the next steps of the company in 2022. Other key folks, of course, on our board, Arthur, Adam, and Cyrus, all been in the industry for a number of years, not only on the board level, but advancing companies, advancing projects, financial background, and also most recently Adam, who again is he's the president of the Association of Rare Earths for the United States of America. Again, a very well and distinguished and respected individual out of the United States. We're very pleased to have him. Adam, Mr. Falkov, just joined our team a 3 months ago. So we're building up the team and really trying to ensure that we have the right talent to take the company to the next level. Capital structure, it's right here on the page. Won't focus on it too much. Some of the key points is having a nice tight share structure. You want to see some of the management team having a position in the company, and you want to see the right graph. We are making the right movement. As you can see, we have an upward trend, and even the graph after today, we're up into the dollar plus range today from our PEA. It's the very beginning. It's nice to set a base, consolidate, tell the story, move on, and continue forward. I will not get into what's on this slide. It'll be available on our website this morning. It really tells the story from back in 2016 as we've taken the steps each and every year to do multiple drill programs, multiple metallurgical studies, and engineering studies more recently with the PEA. And so what we'll try to do now is, in a couple of minutes, is get into how we stack up against the rest. This is, again, Nevada, where we are in Nevada. There's Albemarle, which is the only operating lithium brine mine in the United States. And there's Zeus sitting right next door. And again, if you can picture the liquid lithium brine leached into the soils, which is the clays, which is this lithium carbonate stuff that we have, a few 100 million tons sitting right next to the only operating mine, easy access, roads, infrastructure, and a wonderful place to be, especially when you're in Nevada. This is a resource. I've already touched on this a little bit earlier on in previous slides. Key thing is it's right at surface. Picture basically zero strip level, so everything goes through the mill. And I'm going to show a couple of slides here in a minute. It actually shows the actual grade across the entire project. That basically it's all mineralization or available for a resource to be put through the mill. And again, we own 100% of it, and we've just completed the PEA as of this morning. Again, this is just a couple of snapshots. Looking on the left-hand side, which is the lithium grades across the project from the green, which is the 400 ppm, which is actually makes money at the 400 ppm level, all the way up into the high grade, which is the 1200 to upwards and higher than 2000, 3000 ppm. On the right-hand side, it identifies some of the resource, but actually put into a classification of measured, indicated, and inferred. And most of the drill holes planned for Q1 is going to be just on the outside of the brown or just inside the blue, which was inside the pit outline, which is actually going to upgrade about 174 million tons of mineralization in the inferred into the indicated to help us with the PFS study that we're going to do. So this is, I could probably just put this slide on and just leave it here. This is an amazing PE numbers for juniors of ourselves. I'm going to highlight how we stack up against a peer who is immediately right next door to us, and we can look at what they're trading at, what their numbers are at, what we're trading at, and kind of give a number, an opportunity saying, this is the road, this is the path for NORAM in 2022. As you can see, the study was done at 9,500 US dollars per ton for base case, but it's actually trading at 28,500 today. That's not going to last. I think the forecast is about 14,500, as you can see in my note. So this NPV significantly changes if that 14,000 stays. The NPV gets up to about 2.7 billion. Internal rate of return is over 50%. Big numbers, great start. And what we're trying to do now is take a look at what we have and kind of look at what our neighbor has. A great company, Cypress Development Corp. They've done a lot of work in advancing their story, doing pilot testing in their plant. They're at the PFS stage. But these are our numbers versus theirs if we want to kind of compare apples to apples. Same numbers. We actually outdo them in, I think, every single number. And we're trading at about 1/4 or 30% of their valuation. I think they trade about 250 million market cap. They are ahead of us. They've got a PFS. We got a PEA. We internally believe our PEA will be as strong or stronger than our PEA today when we announce it next year. So good numbers, great base to start at. They're immediately next door, but we trade at only 30%. We're climbing today. We had amazing volume. We had bought a bunch of new shareholders in, but we're just starting to tell the story and get this message out. Again, this is just side by side. We're on the left. Cypress is on the right-hand side. Actually, it's spelled wrong. It should be Cypress, ESS. My apologies. But, we're shoving through basically the same amount of feed through the mill, same grade, same mine life. We've got a little bit better strip ratio. Basically, there's nothing on either project because they're basically identical projects in most respects. And fantastic production coming out to where if you add the tons of LCE from NORAM over the next 40 years, I think it's $12.3 billion of revenue, which is substantial for a little tiny company that is about to change in 2022. Going to push forward pretty quick here. And these are just a bunch of the comps. NORAM on the very far left-hand side. Again, same numbers you just saw on the sheet before. But how do we stack up as you go along and just kind of look at other projects from the pegmatite projects to the brine projects and a lot of really the lithium carbonate or LiCO3 projects globally? We sit extremely well. And I believe today is the start of where people will recognize that if they've owned Cypress, if they've owned Frontier, et cetera, on this page, they better get a piece of us. We better take a look at where we're headed because we're going where all these companies have been. And we've got fantastic numbers that are nearly beating everyone on the page. And this is a quick slide I made up. Really, I'd look at the cost curve for everybody else and what it costs them to produce a ton of LCE in the entire industry in the year 2025 for all the projects that will be on stream. And if you put our little green box and you slide it all the way to the other side, it costs us less than every single one of them to produce a ton, which is fantastic. Great start, great numbers, and it's good to see what NORAM is pushing forward for next year. This is an interesting slide. It shows that we do have some tons in the measured and indicated category. That little green bar will probably slide up significantly to the right next year as we take some of the inferred, add some holes, decrease the spacing, and really take some of this inferred, place it into the indicated, maybe even the measured category, and our curve, our green box will slide up to the right. In other words, just saying that we have a big resource, as good as most of them. And there's our market cap, 55 million US. I think today we're actually 75 million Canadian. I think we closed it at about $1 today. Great start. And great to see the investors excited about what we announced this morning. And it's good to even, hear some of the analysts and the brokers and the banks giving us a call today and wanting to understand why our numbers are so good. So good to be on the left side of that chart. We're pushing further to the right-hand side. And yeah, I tend to speak fairly quickly. So it is 150. So this is really a summary of everything that I've just touched on today. There's a couple of slides after this that I'm not going to get into, but I'll just really run through. Great management, 100% control, good cash position, top jurisdiction in the world. As I believe I've tried to show, we are undervalued versus all of our peers. We've got as good or better numbers. We've got the resource. We've done the math. This thing is going to churn out a lot of revenue and make a lot of money for the financiers and the shareholders as we de-risk and have a re-rate in 2022. And as we push through for the rest of December, I've spoken about where we are. Great place to be in Nevada, right in the mix with everybody. Lots of great neighbors doing all the homework for us. Like I mentioned, they've done a lot of metallurgical studies on the sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, roasting. What's the best way? They've done their pilot plants. We follow along with them, and we'll reap the rewards and climb up the curve with them. Big year next year on all levels. We're going to be upgrading the resource, like I mentioned, doing a PFS, advancing our discussion with the water rights. Again, the main focus is add value for the shareholders, de-risk the asset, get the re-rate, and climb up that, I call it a market cap curve as we push forward. And I'm going to go to Q&A in a second here. I see a couple of questions that are floating in. And again, these are just slides that most people that are probably listening on the call today understand what's happening in the lithium market, understanding it's one of the most critical minerals, not only in the United States, but globally as we push to get lithium to the market to feed this revolution or this green initiatives of driving electric vehicles and batteries and for telephones. So as you can see here, the U.S. government established or designated as a critical mineral, and it's going to be kept in the United States. It's going to be focusing on assisting some of these gigafactories that Tesla has up the street, or not up the street, up the road, up in near Reno, just up the highway from the Zeus Project. And again, some of the other slides that I'll just highlight here is really just showing the demand on every level, the crunch, as you can see on the right-hand side, of what people are trying to produce, what they may produce, what they're hoping to get financed to produce, and what is actually required in the 2025 to 2040. So it's exciting. I'm thrilled to be with this company, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity of helping de-risk and get this company for a huge re-rate in 2022. So I'm going to read out the questions. The first question I see here is, where do you see the company in the next 2 to 3 years? Again, as mentioned in the presentation today, the focus of the company is not only to de-risk the asset, utilizing the experience from the Lithium America groups, from the Ioneer groups, from the neighbor directly next door, Cypress, of all the work they've done on the metallurgical side. This is a new way, this is a new form of getting lithium to the market. People used to go, to the pegmatites in Quebec and Ontario. There's some great projects up there, but the numbers are just incredible for this lithium carbonate. And now with Nevada, I think it's the top, or number 3 in the world next to Bolivia and Argentina, which I used to work in years ago for lithium resources. So it's a great thing. So back to the question. Next year, focus on the pre-feasibility study, increasing the resource, de-risking, adding value to the company, and really looking at the math and the engineering side of how we take this to market, secure the water rights, and advance the project, and see how we can work together with a number of the other players in Nevada to deliver lithium to the United States market. Anything past really at 2 years is a little hard stretch, but I see value coming to the company. You can see where we are in the market cap, so I see it a good opportunity for new groups. From the retail side to the institutional side, taking a look at us. And let me just look up for the next question here. Next question, what is, actually the only other question we have is, what is the size of the land package? I believe we have about, I think it was on slide 4 or 5, it's about 2,800 acres. So it's similar, if you follow Cypress next door, we're about the similar size of the project, maybe a little bit smaller in Nevada. So those are the only 2 questions. I do have a few minutes if somebody else wants to send another question in. But that is the presentation, and I really appreciate being the last story of the day, and I hope I kept you awake. And all the information for reaching out for my direct email, my direct telephone, my cell. I like to be accessible to anybody that ever wants to take a look at the story, from buying 100 shares or 1 million, or just want to hear the story from me directly on the phone. Take a look at the last slide. My cell phone is on there. And I believe that's it. I really appreciate everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
That concludes today's presentation, and thank you for tuning in.